Hello friends, in this session we will talk about food security, public distribution system and malnutrition. Let me introduce you to food security. Food security has been a major goal of development policy in India since the beginning of planning. Food availability and price stability were considered measures of food security till the 1970s, and the achievement of self-sufficiency was accorded high priority in policy. The stress on food grain production provided a solid base for food security at the national level. India achieved self-sufficiency in food grains in the 1970s and has sustained it since then. It improves its capacity to cope with year-to-year fluctuations in food production. The achievement of macro food grain security at the national level did not percolate down to households, and the level of chronic food insecurity in India is still high. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, over 225 million Indians remain chronically undernourished. The National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau has estimated that in 2000-2001, about half of the rural children below 5 years of age suffer from malnutrition and 40% of adults from chronic energy deficiency. This is due to the fact that substantial proportion of the people are too poor to buy enough food and also exposed to diseases caused by poor sanitation, which results in poor conversion of food into energy. The nutritional status of tribals is worse. The government has been implementing a wide range of nutrition intervention programs for achieving food security at the household and individual levels. The high levels of food insecurity forced the Indian government to introduce 3 food intervention programs during the 1970s. The programs are: number 1 being Public Distribution System, popularly known as PDS; number 2, Integrated Child Development Services, popularly known as ICDS; and point number 3, Food for Work, popularly known as FFW. Another approach adopted by the government is to target women and children directly. This includes the midday meal program for school-going children, supplementary nutrition program for children and women. Now friends, let us have a look at National Food Security Act of 2013. The National Advisory Council, popularly known as the NAC, submitted its proposal on National Food Security Bill 2011. The objective of the proposed National Food Security Act, popularly known as NFSA, was defined as to ensure public provisioning of food and related measures to enable assured economic and social access to adequate food with dignity for all persons in the country at all times, in pursuance of their fundamental right to be free from hunger, malnutrition and other deprivations associated with the lack of food and related matters. The NAC recommended the shifting from household food entitlements to individual food entitlements. It presented 2 arguments in favor of this. First, per capita entitlements are fairer. Households with more members will be entitled to more food. Second, per capita entitlements would do away the need for a precise definition and identification of households, which tends to be difficult and prone to manipulation. The National Food Security Bill, popularly known as NFSB, was in the Lok Sabha on December 22, 2011. The bill envisaged coverage of 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population for subsidized food grains under the targeted public distribution system, besides provisions for nutritional support to women and children. After its introduction, the bill was referred to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Food, Consumer Affairs and public distribution for examination. The National Food Security Act, popularly known as NFSA of 2013, seeks to provide an nutritional security in human life cycle approach by ensuring access to adequate quantity of dignity and affordable prices to people to live in a life for matters connected therewith for incidental 2013. It extends to signed into law on September 12 of the Act are as the whole of India. The main highlights are: number 1, the Act gives legal entitlement to 75% of the rural and 50% of the urban population for subsidized grains under TPDS. Point number 2, a beneficiary will be entitled to 5 kgs of rice, wheat or coarse cereals a month at Rs 3, Rs 2 and Rs 1 per kg and will be identified by the states based on the parameters prescribed by the Union Government. Thus, the Act provides individual food entitlements. Point number 3, the price for providing food grains will be initially valid for 3 years from the date of commencement of the Act and thereafter at such price as may be fixed by the central government, not exceeding the minimum support price. Point number 4, although entitlements under the Act has been reduced from 7 kgs to 5 kgs, there is no change in entitlement for 2.43 crore poorest of poor families under the Antyodaya Ann Yojana, which remains at 35 kg per household per month. Point number 5, the state governments shall identify the eligible households under the Act within a period not exceeding 365 days after the commencement of the Act. Point number 6, for children in the age group of 6 months to 6 years, the Act guarantees an age-appropriate meal free of charge through the local Anganwadi. For children aged 6 to 14 years, one free midday meal shall be provided every day in all schools run by local bodies, government and government-aided schools up to class 8th. For children below 6 months, exclusive breastfeeding shall be promoted. Point number 7, every pregnant and lactating mother is entitled to a free meal at the local Anganwadi as well as maternity benefits of Rs 6,000 in installments. Point number 8, the Act provides for the creation of state food commissions. Each commission shall consist of a chairperson, 5 other members and a member's secretary. The main function of the State Commission is to monitor and evaluate the implementation of the Act, give advice to the state governments and their agencies, and inquire into violations of entitlements. Point number 9, in case of non-supply of the entitled quantities of food grains or meals to entitled persons under the Act, such persons shall be entitled to receive food security allowance from the concerned state government. Point number 10, the Act has 3 schedules. Schedule number 1 prescribes issue prices for the public distribution system. Schedule 2 prescribed nutritional standards for midday meals, take-home rations and related entitlements. For instance, take-home rations for children aged 6 months to 3 years should provide at least 500 calories and 12 to 15 grams of protein. Schedule 3 lists various provisions for advancing food security under 3 broad headings. Number 1, revitalization of agriculture, for example, agrarian reforms, research and development, remunerative prices. Point number 2, procurement, storage and movement of food grains. Point number 3, other provisions, for example, drinking water, sanitation, health care and adequate pensions for senior citizens, persons with disability and single women. Now friends, let us look at the public distribution system, popularly known as PDS. The public distribution system or the PDS refers to a network of retail outlets, popularly known as ration shops, through which the government sells grain, principally rice and wheat, and kerosene. Grain sales occur at a fixed price called the issue price that is typically lower than the market price. The PDS, a producer price support cum consumer subsidy program, has its roots in the food grains shortages of 1960s and has evolved since then. Till late 1970s, emphasis was on price stabilization and it was confined to urban and food deficit areas. The distribution of subsidized food, especially to the poor, came into light from early 1980s and thus its coverage was extended to rural areas. In the wake of 1990s economic reforms, public distribution system was the main safety net to protect the poor from the adverse effects of potential price fluctuations in short run. With a network of more than 4 lakh fair price shops, popularly known as FPS, the public distribution system or PDS in India is perhaps the largest distribution machinery of its type in the world. PDS is set to distribute each year commodities worth more than rupees 15,000 crore to about 16 crore families. Two conditions govern the sale of subsidized grain. Number 1, the buyer of grain must possess a ration card. Number 2, grain purchases are subject to a quota. The public distribution system is supported by a procurement operation that procures and funnels supplies to the PDS. Through the Food Corporation of India, popularly known as FCI, the government procures grain at the procurement price and then stores and transports it to the various consuming locations. More than 70% of the poor use the PDS in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Between 50% to 60% of the poor use the public distribution systems in Assam, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Odisha. Participation rates of the poor vary between 6 to 22% in Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. As for the non-poor, their participation rates are lower than that of the poor. A variety of reasons for low participation rates of the poor can be difficulty of obtaining a ration card, limited liquidity of poor households as ration entitlements can be assessed only one every fortnight rather than continuously, uncertain ration supplies, inferior quality of public distribution system grain, inconvenient location of PDS shops, slender subsidy offered in most states. Lack of geographical access to the PDS network seems to be a powerful factor inhibiting participation. States where households have easy access to PDS shops also are states with high participation rates. Public distribution system was criticized on a wide front. The annual food subsidy involved in maintaining the system is huge. The level of food subsidies as a proportion of total government expenditure has gone up from a level of 2.5% in the early 1990s to more than 5% in 2002-2003. The high carrying cost of stocks in excess of the buffer norms pushes up the food subsidy bill. Its failure to serve the population below poverty line, which is popularly known as BPL, for its perceived urban bias, negligible coverage in states with a high density of rural poor, lack of transparent and accountable arrangements for delivery. Given that backdrop, the government acted to streamline PDS during the 9th 5-year plan by issuing special cards to BPL families and selling to them food grains through PDS outlets at specially subsidized prices. Now friends, let us have a look at malnutrition. What is the impact of poverty reduction on child malnutrition? Radha Krishna and Ravi in 2004 estimated that malnutrition would persist even when the poverty level is brought down to zero. Their results indicate that a 10% reduction in poverty would reduce malnutrition by 6%. Also reveals that malnutrition declines slowly with improvements in the standard of living. The probability of a child falling into malnutrition decreases with improvement in the mother's nutrition status, mother's education, mother's age and antenatal visits, but increases when the mother is working. The adverse effect of the working status of the mother may be characteristic among the poor households. The risk of malnutrition also decreases with the increase in standard of living of the household, and it increases with household size. Children of the poor communities suffering from malnutrition not only do not achieve full genetic growth potential and end up as adults with small body size, but are also exposed to a greater risk of child mortality. The efficacy of conversion food into energy of an individual depends on his or her access to safe drinking water, health care and environmental hygiene. The advances in the control of communicable diseases and improvement in healthcare significantly improved the efficiency of food energy conservation by reducing food wastages caused by a diarrhea or dysentery. A consensus has emerged that the assessment of malnutrition should be based on the nutritional outcome. Anthropometric measures, clinical signs of malnutrition, biochemical indicators and physical activity are the suggested indicators of malnutrition. Among these, anthropometric measures should be preferred since body measurements are highly sensitive to even minor levels of malnutrition, whereas biochemical and clinical indicators are useful only when the level of malnutrition is extreme. The National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, popularly known as NNMB, reports provide estimates of child malnutrition based on the Gomes classification and chronic energy deficiency of adults based on body mass index. The NNMB estimates show that in rural areas, the incidence of child malnutrition declined slowly from 61.5% in 1975 to 79 to 47.7% in 2000 and 2001. In spite of some improvement in nutritional status, nearly half the rural children were suffering from malnutrition. This means that about half of the children of India may not have reached their physical or mental potential, and a sizable proportion of them may be functionally impaired. It is noteworthy that the level of malnutrition is much higher than the incidence of income poverty. Also, reduction in malnutrition is much slower than that of income poverty. Now friends, let us have a look at role of the government. India is home to the world's largest childcare program. Ousting malnutrition completely from our country is a Herculean task. It is one of the top agendas in the priority list of the present government and is now receiving proper attention at the highest levels. The government has envisaged a multi-sectorial approach and direct and specific interventions to address the issue of malnutrition. Some of the direct and specific interventions can be seen as: number 1, Integrated Child Development Services, popularly known as ICDS, specially programmed for lactating and pregnant mothers and children below the age of 3. Point number 2, National Rural Health Mission, popularly known as NRHM. Point number 3, Midday Meal Scheme, which is known as MDM. Point number 4, Rajiv Gandhi Scheme for Employment for Adolescent Girls, popularly known as RGSEAG or SABLA. Point number 5, Indira Gandhi's Mitrayo Sahyog Yojana, popularly known as IGMSY. Point number 6, Annapurna Scheme or APS. Government's multi-sectorial approaches include: point number 1, Targeted Public Distribution System or TPDS. Point number 2, National Horticultural Mission. Point number 3, National Food Security Mission. Point number 4, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, popularly known as MGNREGS. Point number 5, National Rural Drinking Water Scheme. As per the National Family Health Survey, the proportion of underweight children below 3 years declined from 43% in 1998-99 to 40% in 2005-2006. As per the Rapid Survey on Children 2013-2014, commissioned by Ministry of Women and Child Development, there is a reduction in underweight among under 5 years of age from 42.5% in NFHS 3 to 29.4% and wasting from 19.8% in NFHS 3 to 15.1%. Now friends, let us have a look at recent developments in agriculture. The agriculture sector recorded satisfactory growth due to improved technology, irrigation, inputs and pricing policies. Livestock, poultry, fisheries and horticulture are surging ahead in production growth in recent years and will have greater demand in the future. Industrial and service sectors have expanded faster than agriculture sector, resulting in declining share of agriculture in national accounts. Despite the structural change, agriculture still remains a key sector, providing both employment and livelihood opportunities to more than 70% of the country's population who live in rural areas. The contribution of small farmers to the national and household food security has been steadily increasing. The water availability for agricultural uses has reached a critical level and deserves urgent attention of all concerned. The research and educational efforts, duly supported by the developmental efforts and the creation of the infrastructure such as irrigation system, fertilizer and chemical industry, surface transport system, rural credit system, marketing and storage facilities have ensured that India enters the next millennium as a food secure nation. The Indian Council of Agricultural Research, popularly known as ICAR, an apex organization for conducting and coordinating agricultural research, has been at the forefront to lead these agricultural revolutions in the country. The ICAR, since its inception in 1929, has emerged as a vibrant organization comprising 4 national institutes, 45 central institutes, 30 national research centers, 10 project directorates, 4 agencies, 80 All India coordinated research projects, 261 Krishi Vigyan Kendras and 29 state agricultural universities, popularly known as SAUs, serving the needs of the country. In addition, during the last few years, we have seen the emerging role of private sector, non-governmental organizations and farmers associations in the field of agricultural technology generation and distribution. Now friends, let us have a look at different yojanas programmed or implemented by the government through the hands of ICAR. Number 1, Farmers First. It is an ICAR initiative to enhance farmers-scientist contact with multi-stakeholders participation. First here refers to farm, innovations, resources, science and technology. The project focuses on enabling interaction of scientists with farm conditions and problems. Number 2 program is Mera Gaon Mera Gaurav. It is launched by ICAR to provide farmers with required information, knowledge and advisories on regular basis. Number 3, Attracting and Retaining Youth in Agriculture, ARYA scheme. ICAR has initiated a program on attracting and retaining youth in agriculture to empower youth in rural areas to take up agriculture, allied and service sector enterprises for sustainable income and gainful employment in selected districts. Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sanchi Yojana. It is a central scheme that aims at providing irrigation facilities to every village in the country by converging ongoing irrigation schemes implemented by various ministries. It will focus on end-to-end solutions in irrigation supply chain by implementing new program in a project mode with decentralized state-level planning and execution. This scheme has amalgamated 3 ongoing programs of 3 different ministries. Number 1 being Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Program of the Ministry of Water Resources. Number 2, Integrated Watershed Management Program of the Ministry of Rural Development. Point number 3, Farm Water Management Component of the National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture. Now we will look at Soil Health Card. The scheme is launched to provide every farmer a soil health card in a mission mode. The card will carry crop-wise recommendations of nutrients and fertilizers required for farms, making it possible for farmers to improve productivity by using appropriate inputs. Next we have Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, Traditional Farming Improvement Program, has been launched by Government of India to support and promote organic farming and thereby improving soil health. This will encourage farmers to adopt eco-friendly concept of cultivation and reduce their dependence on fertilizers and agricultural chemicals to improve yields. Agri-Tech Infrastructure Fund, popularly known as ATIF. ATIF is aimed at implementation of an appropriate common e-market platform to regulate 585 regulated wholesale markets in the states across the country. National Agriculture Market, popularly known as NAM, is envisaged as a pan-India electronic trading portal which seeks to network the existing agricultural produce market committees, popularly known as APMCs, and other market yards to create a unified national market for agricultural commodities. NAM will be implemented as a central sector scheme through Agri-Tech Infrastructure Fund ATIF, Price Stabilization Fund scheme to control the rising prices of agricultural commodities. A price stabilization fund of rupees 500 crore for agricultural commodities was announced in the Union Budget of 2014-2015 with a view to mitigate volatility in the prices of agricultural produce. Now friends, let us summarize this session. The availability of food grains is not a sufficient condition to ensure food security to the poor. It is also necessary that the poor have sufficient means to purchase food. The capacity of the poor to purchase food can be ensured in 2 ways: by raising the incomes or supplying food grains at subsidized prices. While employment generation programs attempt the first solution, the public distribution system is the mechanism for the second option. Generally, the risk of child malnutrition is high among the poor households where mothers have poor nutritional levels. The performance of food-based interventions needs to be improved by making them more demand-driven. Merely scaling up the coverage of the programs without improving their quality may not be the best way to reduce malnutrition. While ICDS covers the nutritional needs of children of 6 months and 6 years age, pregnant and lactating mothers, Rajiv Gandhi scheme for adolescent girls cover the nutritional and non-nutritional components for adolescent girls. Under these schemes, age-appropriate supplementary nutrition is provided to the beneficiaries at the Anganwadi centers spread across the country. Thank you, friends.